Congressman, 7th District, Virginia, Dave Brat, running for a third term. He's and this one of the most hotly contested races we are understanding in the country. The New York Times doing number 3 article on this race. They are infatuated beyond belief with Dave's Democratic opponent, Abigail Spanberger, former veteran of CIA, both covert and overt operations. And the New York Times just loves Abigail Spanberger. They love writing about her and all the support that she has and all that good stuff. So they're having fun there over at the New York Times, coming to Virginia and coming into the Richmond area. Hope they're enjoying themselves as they write puff pieces on Miss Spanberger, because that's really what they are. It's kind of funny, obviously. You got to take this stuff with a grain of salt because the New York Times is really ridiculous in covering this race. Anyway, Congressman, 7th District Republican Dave Brat, good to have you with us, Congressman.
Hey, good to be on, John. Yeah, I haven't gotten many puff pieces from the New York Times.
I mean, it's almost embarrassing. Really, it is. And you have to really do this with tongue in cheek. You can't get mad because it's too silly to get mad. It really is. But you almost have to do this. I mean, you look at the piece they had that came out, I guess, today or Sunday that I just read, and I think this is like the third one. And it was like, Abigail's wonderful, Dave sucks. I mean, that's basically the article. It's pretty funny. And
it's been like that for 4 years, right? I've been told the experts say I'm going to lose and it's tight and then I win big. And then there's never a piece after the fact when you win. And the more serious part is, you're right, you got to laugh at the left-wing pieces. And when the left-wing pieces are supporting a candidate, you know it stands for all the policies that have ruined, New York City and Chicago and San Francisco, et cetera. And so what's missing is any numbers, right? That's what's missing from any of these pieces. So you can write all about all the nice ideas you want, but the New York Times will never tell you, right? The new health care plan on the left got costed out, was written up in the Richmond Times Dispatch a couple weeks ago, and that Abigail Spanberger's century running on until she found out the number was $28 trillion. You'd have to double everyone's personal income tax and double the corporate rate to pay for just the one program she's proposed, and that would stop the economy immediately. You'd be in a recession/depression. And that's what's sad. The New York Times, the paper of record, that one policy should be disqualifying for any candidate. And that's just the warm-up act, right? Then you can just go on to all the other issues. We'll dig into whatever you want to dig into today.
Well, look, as I said, you can't even get mad at it because it's that ridiculous. You really have to laugh at it, Congressman. And, I've said this before. Abigail is a formidable candidate. She's a very nice woman. Looks like she's a really great mom and a really super lady. But, when you get these pieces by the New York Times, they're almost laughable. And you can't even read them with any kind of a serious or straight face. So let's get some of the issues. I'm going to go to a personal issue, Congressman, and then we're going to get to the substance of this race. My youngest son, Joseph, started high school today, so I'm excited about that. It's a big day, as you know, when you get the youngest one. It's kind of a changing of the guard type thing, and you know what's going to happen after that, girls, and he's not going to want to hang with dad. So we get all that. But I look at this video shooting in Jacksonville, and there's just been a number of these, and they're all young men, right? They're not daughters, they're sons. And I'm staying a lot closer to home with Joseph, my 14-year-old, than I did with Jack, my 28-year-old. It was just a different time. And I just didn't worry as much. Am I overreacting? Is this a fatherhood problem, Dave? What is going on?
Yeah, well, it's a giant cultural piece, and it just fits into the overall narrative, right? We're trying to run the country through elites up in D.C. across the board. And so on all these crucial issues, when it comes to the fentanyl, right, a couple 100 million lethal doses of fentanyl coming across the border, the heroin problem, the opioid problem, the trafficking problem, family breakup, depression, mental health is a scourge in the schools right now across the country. And you put all that together, and you've got some major social problems. And so my philosophy and the Republican philosophy is always to try to get that money back down to the states and localities instead of having the elites try to run and solve all these, connections that you have down in the locality up in D.C. It just does not work. And I think Obamacare is just kind of the emblematic piece there, right? They said you're going to keep your doctor, you're going to keep your health insurance, and you're going to have 0 people going to ER because everyone was going to be covered. And that's what the elites promised us, was this just utopian dream. And none of that happened. You lost your doctor. You're lost in bureaucracy and paperwork. You've got one insurance company. I got Democrats coming in and telling me, I've got one huge insurance company. I got one prescription. They tell me my doctor's not even involved in it. And that whole set of issues is related to, we need to prop up all these local intermediary organizations we used to have stronger. There's been books out on this by sociologists, Bowling Alone, and all these kind of things that do a serious deep dive. But no, everyone's feeling the same thing. And when I go to town halls and Team Spanberger is swearing at the pastor, and they won't let me get a word in edgewise, that's emblematic of the tone that's got to change. I've never done anything like that. And so everyone says we're going to work across the aisle and get together and all that work, but they got to show it. Abigail Spanberger was sitting in the front row at that town hall and did not lift a finger. In fact, she was Ron with them, right? She's on film. It's all on video, and everybody can see. So you got a clear choice of people who say one thing, and then the press says they're formidable. I'm not so sure they're formidable. We'll see about that.
What do you think of NBC and ESPN not showing the national anthem before football games?
Yeah, well, it's the way it used to be, but now that it's the focal point, I don't get it. I mean, it shouldn't be problematic at all, right? We should all be so proud of this country and so thankful for this land, and so I don't get it. The microscope is on them. Everyone's watching them, and that's what they decide to do. It doesn't make sense to me at all.
Let me just ask you something, and as an economist, I want you to spend a minute on this because I think people don't understand the depth of this proposal. Leading presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren last week, as she's going to run for president, and I've got her as the favorite to be the Democratic nominee. She talked about basically if you have a private company in the United States and you have over $1 billion of assets, that you need government oversight, like government on the board of directors having a say in what you do. When I went to college, that was called socialism. This has gotten almost zero play in the mainstream media. What exactly is she talking about?
Well, that's what creeping socialism is, and she's clarifying it for all of us to see. The socialists, right? The Marxists want a total ownership of the means of production, right? That's the classical definition. Well, the left knows you're not going to get that. So if you can't own all the capital equipment, the next best thing is to regulate it and to run it and to do oversight on it while you're trying to reach the eventual promised utopian land that only socialists believe in, right? And that has never occurred on Earth in any country or any island. I mean, it's never worked at any level. And so, yeah, she's going full-blown socialist on us. She endorsed Abigail Spanberger, who's running against me, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, if the press thinks that's a formidable combination, I mean, that's just a recipe for European disaster and slow growth, and the American people don't like it. I think the Americans like this new buoyant economy we have right now with African-American, Hispanic, Asian, women, youth unemployment rates at all-time historic or decades-low records. I mean, you cannot put a good enough word on what's going on right now. So we have success right now, and the Democrat proposals, like Spanberger's health care thing, would stop the economy in its tracks. I mean, Spanberger said she wants to get rid of the tax reductions on small businesses, on your income, et cetera. And I don't get it. So I don't get why it's even close. And so you put your finger on the best evidence that shows how far left these folks are. And Spanberger will say, well, I'm not going to vote for Pelosi for Speaker. And that's because people haven't thought this through. It's because Pelosi's too conservative for her, right? All the other candidates, like Senator Elizabeth Warren, are way to the left of Pelosi. And so if people start thinking about it, and they will right before the election, I think it'll become fairly clear what's best for the country and for the Commonwealth.
Well, Abigail Spanberger has not ruled out Medicare expansion for all, like just going to a complete Medicare, Medicaid system, no private health insurance. She's not ruled that out. To my knowledge, if she has, her staff needs to tell me that. But the last 2 times I had her on, she has not ruled that out. Well, that's got a price tag. Bernie Sanders' plan has got a price tag of $32 trillion added to the debt we have now, which means that basically to be even, taxes would have to double. So you just take whatever you're paying now, you double it, and then you're even.
Right.
Have you asked them specifically what their position is?
Sure. I wrote 20 questions out on an email the other day. They got a hold of it. That's the whole point that I'm trying to get out here. She doesn't have any agenda. And I'm not exaggerating. She came out of the gate on that health care plan strong. And then she saw the analysis done. She didn't do any analysis on it, right? And so did not do the homework, comes out with this huge plan and backtracks it. And she's flip-flop on several issues. The big, and I mean the big issues, right? Health care, immigration, taxes, between when she was running in the primary, and now she's got her, finger up in the air reading the general election. And so it just shows you it's pure politics. Whereas in contrast, I couldn't be more clear on the principles that I run on in a primary or a general, and I can't hide from them, and I don't want to hide from them because I know they're the best principles for the country. And so that's what's going. You got pure politics going on the left, and it mirrors the national leadership too, right? Pelosi and the leadership. They have no agenda. They're just running on. We're going to impeach Trump, and I don't think Spanberger's come out on that either. And so she
hasn't.
Total chaos for the next several years.
She said
that's the party to vote for.
She said she would have to look at the evidence. Let's get to this debate that we've scheduled. So your campaign and Spanberger's campaign have agreed to a John Fredericks Radio Show debate, but we don't have a date. So I just want to put that out there that we're still looking for the two camps to get back to us with a mutual date and location. Once we have that, Dave, all the details are worked out, and then we'll go forward with it. So if you could remind your staff to get that moving. You've got a lot.
Yeah, I think we got three debates planned, so that'll be good. That'll put the ideas out in front of the public. They can see very clearly the clear contrast between more federal government and less, and higher taxes and less, and open borders, and let's get rid of the chaos at the border. So it's going to be the most clear-cut contrast you can see in a debate.
Let's get to the borders and get to ICE. Obviously, there's many Democrats now, they want to abolish ICE or they want to reform ICE in some manner that renders it powerless in order to execute their agenda. I think when I asked Abigail that question, she said she was not for eliminating it, but she was for reforming it. What type of reforms do you think she's talking about? And does Dave Brat see any changes that need to be made within the ICE organization?
Yeah, we need to support ICE. They're internal law enforcement. They're the people that are fighting the 200 million lethal doses of fentanyl that came across the border this year. They're the ones that are fighting human trafficking, et cetera. And her lack of clarity tells you all you need to know. She's running on that one. She wants to be far left for her friends, but she knows that's not where the 7th District is. And the 7th District is right with me, squarely with me. And so she won't say anything. She'll say what she just told you, something that doesn't make sense and is not a coherent policy. And that's the point I really am making. She does not have any policy or bills on paper that she can point to on anything that I'm aware of, except for the health care piece. And now she's backing off on that because it costs $32 trillion. And so, right, I on sanctuary cities, I'm guessing she's supportive of them. And that's the governor's position in Virginia now, and the left, Elizabeth Warren, who endorses her, is all for them. And then what about the big ticket items, right? Chain migration and E-Verify and stronger internal enforcement. I'm on the record on all of this, right? The Goodlatte bill. It's got down to the commas, right? It's every detail's right there. And Abigail Spanberger doesn't have anything on paper. And that's what I'm talking about. There's no agenda on the other side whatsoever. And so what they do instead is they go scare people on other various issues where there's no evidence for scaring people, right? They're going to go around and talk about Medicare and Social Security and all these issues and say that Republicans are cutting them, which is totally false. And so they don't have an agenda, so they're going to run on impeach Trump and they're going to push falsehoods. And everybody knows, right? There haven't been any cuts to Social Security, Medicare, but every Democrat I've run against has gone into senior centers and homes and literature spreading just absolute falsehood about cuts that have already taken place or that are coming. And they'll talk about budget bills, et cetera, and they don't know the budget process at all, right? Look at the appropriations. That's where the spending happens, and there's been no cuts to anything.
I think amongst not only Abigail Spanberger, your opponent, but many of the Democrats, they're very light right now on actual policy recommendations. Like, I don't really know what their platform is. I don't know what Abigail's is. And I think if you're Abigail Spanberger, you're really treading a thin line here because you've got to be never Trump, hate Trump to motivate your base because that's what it exists of. You know, we don't like Trump. But then you don't want to alienate the moderates in the district, which is a big part of the 7. So you can't really come out for any of these crazy positions. So, I mean, she's really in a box where you, on the other hand, you're able to be pretty clear what you stand for, win or lose. You've been criticized incessantly. One of the major criticisms of you, Dave, is that you're not holding town hall meetings. Why don't you just end the criticism, schedule 3 of them, do it for an hour and a half each, take their abuse questions or whatever they're going to do, and shake everybody's hand and leave? I mean, why not just have them?
Well, yeah, we may end up doing that still, but we're just going to see how the left is behaving. The last 2 we had, right? One there's a clip out on the web, and you can Google it, but there were 700 leftists there swearing at the pastor during the prayer before any issues came up, right? And it was reported in the Chesterfield Observer and the Richmond Times-Dispatch, et cetera. And then the national press wouldn't pick it up. So the downside of those is that then the only thing the national press picks up is they'll pick up all the negative, and they won't cover any of the news. And so Abigail Spanberger was in the front row of that huge Chesterfield town hall when everyone is yelling and screaming. And she's running on that, she doesn't have any policy agenda. You can't find it. So she says she's going to bring a new tone. That's the basis of her campaign. I'm going to bring a new tone. And what tone is that? It's the tone that she was leading with Team Spanberger inside the church, yelling at the pastor and then not letting us speak for 90 minutes.
Yeah, but that's her problem, Congressman. That's her problem. I mean, here's the way Tom Garrett did his. So I'm going to challenge you on this.
Yeah, sure.
The only thing he did is he said, I don't care who comes in, but you just have to prove that you're in the district. Otherwise, it becomes a sideshow, right? You got people bussing in from Fairfax. It's dumb, right? So just prove to me that you live in my district, in the 5th district, and I'll have it in a big venue. I don't care who comes, and you can throw tomatoes at me. I'm going to answer your questions for an hour and a half, and then I'm going to leave. And so if they want to misbehave and it's televised and they want to do that, then that's on them. Meantime, you answer their questions. The best part about Dave Brat in America is that you can answer anybody's question at any time in detail, and your positions don't change based on what venue you're in.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what makes you stand out.
Just to be clear, this getting around, I mean, it's a Democrat talking point, right? I mean, I've had over 500 constituent meetings. And there's evidence on this, right? The press doesn't need to act like this is a mystery. When the Democrats say Dave's nowhere, there's a thing called Facebook that's out there now. Mm-hmm. So you can go see. I'm everywhere in every county having individual meetings with every constituent that wanted to sign up to meet with me. I met with them. That's on top of the other 350, 400 meetings we've had with business groups and every Rotary in town and every group there is. And so it's all there, right? So the problem I'm getting at has to do with the media. the media won't report any of that. That's the fake news out there, right? So it's not very hard to find. Is Dave Brat out there every day meeting with people? I got on the official side and the campaign side, Facebooks on both sides that have me at every event imaginable. And even in August, just go look up. I've been to every county with every constituent that wanted to meet with me this month. And so, there's these charges that are made up, and they shouldn't remain questions. Rationality should engage, and they're not true.
Well, anyway, I would suggest that you guys look into that, because if you did that, it would just take it off the table. And if the other side, my position in these things, if the other side wants to misbehave, then that's their problem. They're going to have to deal with that. And, hopefully that isn't going to happen. But here, final question.
Yeah.
Are we going to get legislation before you guys go off the campaign on making the personal tax cut piece of Trump's tax cut plan permanent the way the corporate taxes cut is?
Yeah, we're planning on it in the House. I don't know whether the Senate can handle that before November as well, but that would be ideal. And the Democrats, challenged us to that just on a political talking point basis. I don't think they really want it. But we'll see then, right? Then we'll see. Not one Democrat voted for tax cut. And so they all say, we all want to work across the aisle and all that kind of thing. But you get candidates running like Spanberger. They say, well, I'm going to be independent or whatever. There is no independence on the Democrat side. They vote in lockstep. They're hugely punitive, and they'll punish you, and you won't be a member of the conference. And so when I get a kick out of hearing, Democrats say, I'm going to be independent. No, they're not. And so when their vote comes up on extending tax cuts for everybody, they're already on the record, right? So Spanberger said tax cuts are dangerous. And then she said they're not kitchen table. And she said, don't look at the 4.1 economic growth. Well, my word, the 4.1 economic growth, GDP growth rate, right?
Yeah.
This quarter that we're in right now, that's what gave you the boost in 100 million Walmart shoppers having retail sales records, right? There's nothing more kitchen table than that. And so I can't emphasize the evidence enough. I think the American people are going to see through this smoke and come home. They know who's producing the goods and getting the economy revving again, and it's the Republicans.
This is the Democrat dilemma in a district like the 7th. It's a real dilemma they have, because you can't run away from the economic resurgence this nation is having. The facts and the results are so formidable and so demonstrative, there's nothing you can do. So by saying they're not kitchen table issues or growth doesn't matter, it's like saying jobs don't matter, raises don't matter, wages don't matter. It puts them in a real dilemma. I think that, look, I'm not going to give any of the Democrat advice, but they'd be a lot better off saying, hey, this is a great economy, and as far as the economy is concerned, when I'm there, I'm going to do everything I can to grow it even further. But by saying I'm going to repeal tax cuts and I'm going to do this and that, and then get $32 trillion in debt so that I can sink the economy, doesn't make any sense. It defies logic. And I get the power thing. I get you want to win, and I get they want to take power and impeach Trump and all this stuff. But how they can disparage jobs for people and wage increases for people and bonuses for people and new manufacturing for people and new factories for people and new good paying jobs for people. How you can disparage that is beyond me. And I guess maybe the liberal women of Chesterfield don't see this, according to the New York Times. But if you have a job today and you didn't have a job 6 months ago, guess what? You're voting for Trump again, and you're voting for whoever the Republican is. It's real simple math. You give people jobs, you give them a better wage, you give them an opportunity, you let them feel comfortable that they're not going to get laid off or fired, and they can take care of their families, and it's a new world order. And this is really what the Democrats in this campaign fail to see, and I think that's why the Republicans are going to hold the House. You get people jobs. You get people jobs, man. It's not blue. It's not red. It's not liberal women of Chesterfield or conservatives in wherever. It's green. It's cash. It's a job. It's your home. It's your survival. It's your family. That's what's driving everything. And the Democrats don't understand it. And it saddens me because we all should be reveling in this great economy. Doesn't make any sense. That's my narrative. I'm done. Thank you, Dave.
Fred. Right, spot on.
Thank you, John Fredericks Radio Network.
I got the PhD in green, so that should do good.
I'm sorry I took 5 minutes of your time.
That's great. You're right on the money.